Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
All right, Kentucky Dave, it is episode 159.
Yep.
Man.
I know. March is almost halfway over, man.
It will be tomorrow. Well, almost. About noon tomorrow, I'll be half over. Oh, man. You're right. We're a little late here. We had a little scheduling difficulty here. I had to run down to East Tennessee for a family matter, and I'm back now. And we've had the interview recorded for almost a week. It'll be a week tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we're getting it all on the books tonight, and we'll get this out in plenty of time. And we'll get it out a little after some of our fellow podcasts drop their episodes for the second week of February or March. So it's all good, man.
It is.
Well, man, what is up in your model sphere, Dave?
As you may remember in February's episode, one of February's episodes, I mentioned that I started tracking my bench time. And I had said that in January, I got about six hours and 30 or 40 minutes of bench in the entire month of January. Well, I've been continuing to track it, and February, shorter month, I got 5 hours and 37 minutes in at the bench the entire month.
What was January again?
6:30.
Okay, so
And
you probably still went the wrong direction.
I probably did still go the wrong direction, but and now keep in mind, I am being ruthless about this. This is only time I'm at the bench actually building, so not watching YouTube or cleaning up or prepping or any of that stuff. So I'm still deficient in the amount of time I'm managing to get to the bench. And March, I wish I could say so far in March there's been an improvement, but there hasn't.
Oh, man. I thought you were going to say you're already there and it's only the middle of the month and you're already at 6 hours.
Nope. I wish I could.
Give him ribbon, folks.
Yes, that's right. Well,
get them spurs in deep.
Yeah. I've also been acquiring things for the hobby room to try and improve my hobby room. And we'll talk about more of that in the What Broke Your Wallet segment. And then finally, HeritageCon is almost upon us.
Just about.
And I cannot tell you how much I've been anticipating that. So my model sphere is good. I'm jazzed. It's everything's positive. I want it to be more positive, but it's positive. How about you?
Except your bench time.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
All right.
How about you?
Model sphere wise, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I got a lot of forward planning to do still. I keep saying that, and people are probably getting tired of hearing it, but things are getting a little more complicated month to month, which is, I guess, a good thing.
Right.
I just got to figure out the workflow to make the workflow, honestly.
Well, you're burying the lead here, man. You finished a model.
We got a bench time halftime
I know,
report.
but you could at least mention it.
Okay, I'll mention it. I did finish the Mooseroo Cup, and I'm so glad that is in the rearview mirror. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
It's done. Is it done to the degree I wanted it done? No, but it's not bad.
No,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Other than that, man, just trying to get the planning done, and I'm trying to think of things that aren't bench related, right?
Right.
But, with the Mooseroo Cup completion, I did a full wipe down and sanitization of the bench. So time to get back to the other things.
Yep.
Well, that's it.
All right. Well, since we're recording an actual episode here that requires a modeling fluid, do you have a modeling fluid?
I do.
And what is it?
Don't spit your dentures out, Dave.
Okay.
You don't wear dentures. I'm being facetious. At least not that I know of.
Right.
I'm working on the Weller Special Reserve again.
Oh, man.
It's all right. I got another bottle coming,
Yeah,
man. It's all good.
Hey, listen, I don't blame that stuff. That stuff is just so good. It's otherworldly good.
There's like a third of it left, and I've had the bottle for stinking almost 2 months. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
So,
well, you were trying to be a good boy.
And I keep putting tape on the lid so I can put it in the car and not have it be an open container.
Right.
I keep having to take it off. So my buddy Sean's going to hook me up with another one. He's already got it, actually. So,
well, good.
We'll have some for Heritage Con.
We need to.
Fear not, Dave. You'll get to partake in the Weller. We'll get to it later.
Yes.
Let's not make the front end of this segment too fat. What do you got going on?
Well, I've got Great Lakes Brewing Chill Wave Double IPA.
You're doing the doubles now? Folks, this is a guy who did not like hoppy beer in 2020.
Absolutely. That is true. That is true.
Now he's drinking a double IPA.
Gumball Head was the gateway drug, man. And
I guess it's not an IPA, though.
No, it isn't.
But it's close. But it's hoppy. It is. It's what is it? It's pale ale.
Whew. Oh, man. Oh, we may struggle. That one's hoppy. Whew. Wow.
Probably give me an allergy attack.
That one is hoppy.
Double. What'd you expect?
Stay tuned, folks. We'll see how I get through the episode.
We got plenty of listener mail, Dave.
Good.
It keeps coming.
Let's get to it.
We have a manageable amount tonight.
Good.
Which is good because we have a longish interview.
Yeah.
But it's a good one. So we got plenty of listener mail. First up, Lee Edmonds again. And this one's interesting because he parsed this out into basically 4 or 5 paragraphs here that are all kind of separate things we've been doing based on our last episodes.
Okay.
And I guess we talked about last episode, what people get out of this and, what they like about the hobby was kind of the crux of the episode.
Yeah.
And he had a few things resonate with him. And one of them was all the people talking about doing the research on the model while they're making it or after they're done or before they start, just whenever, right?
Right.
You got some research to do. Well, he's a history PhD and he's been an academic and professional historian as a career. So he doesn't do a lot of historical research when he gets into his models because he's kind of tired of it by the end of the day.
I can understand that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then we'd mentioned, I guess it was John Bryan who had the website he created. And he was looking at his models on there.
Yep.
And we elaborate a little bit about, hey, maybe you need to make this public or whatever.
Right.
Because he's a really, really good modeler. And that's not an overstatement. He's a fabulous modeler. And I'd mentioned this other website, what was it? It was the Little Aviation Museum. I don't think that's what I called it before, but he reminded me that's what it was because it's his. He's the guy in Australia with the website with all his builds on it.
Gotcha.
So he reminded me that. So folks, if you're out there and you want to see Lee's photo montage of all his projects, it's the Little Aviation Museum. You can either Google that and I'll put a link in the show notes to get there, but he's the guy that's been doing this. So there we go. And finally, I'm going to forward this on to the person he was addressing, but he had some kind and encouraging words for Warren Dickinson. I'm not going to read those, but Warren, I think you'll like what he has to say, and I'm going to send those out to you. Okay?
Yep.
Well, Dave, up next is Paul Budzik. Again, he's written in quite a bit here lately.
Yes,
maybe he's got more time because he's retired.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
This is a really, really good tip and something I've never thought of, and he's probably right. I mean, yeah, he's probably right.
What are the odds that Dr. Budzik is wrong? I mean, come on.
I don't know. It's titled Your Cyanoacrylate Phobia. I get it. I don't know that I would call it a phobia. I just have an apprehension, I guess.
Right.
Maybe it's just what's separating those two? A degree of severity, maybe? He says he just got through placing his yearly order through CA, and he thought about me.
Okay.
And the main reasons why people find the material unpredictable is the age of it. So apparently he renews this every year, whether he's used it all or not.
I can see that. I know that cyanoacrylate does age badly.
It probably does. It gets all stringy.
It gets stringy, or it can either get stringy, it can get thick, or it can also seem to lose that adhesive ability to some extent.
Well, I think he's getting at my complaints that it sticks when you don't want it to and doesn't when you do.
Right.
So That's the unpredictability, which is one of the big reasons he mentions his age. Retailers really don't rotate their stock that often.
Yeah.
And sometimes this stuff can sit on their shelves a long time, a year or more. It's an ambient environment, but how good is it?
Right.
See, so as a general rule, Paul orders his stuff annually, and he gets it right from Pacer Industries.
Mm-hmm.
Robart, I guess, is their primary distributor.
Right.
And he's provided a link, and I'll put that in the show notes, and maybe I'll just refresh all my glues.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
It's not something I'm going to not use.
Right.
It certainly is a game changer in a lot of ways for a lot of applications, but I have my frustrations and I've been vocal about them, and this could be it. This could be the reason.
Well, you'll have to keep us updated.
I will. So we'll see what happens if I get some new glue.
Good.
Listener Frank Blanton has written in from the IPMS Richmond Old Dominion Open show. Well, he's in Richmond, and
Right.
he's certainly involved with that show and a regular attendee. Really interesting. He sent me the stats for the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a one-day show. 246 modelers entered the contest. They had 863 paid walk-ins. So total walk-ins were 942.
Yeah.
So I guess some folks can get in free.
Probably kids,
because 863 and 246 don't add up to 943.
Right.
The models entered, not counting display only, was 1,135.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's big.
That's a lot. 140 vendor tables sold. One-day show. Spectacular day, my friends. And, of course, he's inviting us to come, and we would love to come to that sometime.
And just think, it would provide you an opportunity to see where I grew up. I could take you by the house, and, you could.
Is there a plaque?
Yeah, there probably is. If there isn't, there should be.
Well, he says this show has grown quietly. It was the first time they broke 1,000 entries.
Yeah.
And there are more models. They had the display only. There's more stuff there to see than just the official records. So just a big celebration of styrene and community, he says. So sounds pretty interesting. I'm sure the model geeks will have a feature episode. Maybe it's in the one they dropped here recently.
It might be.
As we record this. I don't know if they've going to drop a special on the ODO or if it's going to be part of their feature episode, but normally they cover that one pretty good, and we'll see what they do. But Frank, thanks for the data. Always curious. So that puts it right on par size-wise with Heritage Con, honestly.
Yes, it does.
So that's a big deal.
That is.
Well, you're going to help with this one, Dave.
All right.
Daniel Brewer from the Knoxville Scale Modelers Association down in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I was actually at this afternoon for a short period of time on my drive home from East Tennessee.
Yeah.
In episode 158, apparently you were talking about surface air missiles, and you were.
Yes.
I remember that. He wonders if he could recommend in 72nd scale an SA2 and a Patriot battery. Now, the SA2, I can answer that.
Yeah,
I'll let you do it. The other one, I've got no clue, but go ahead, Dave.
Well, SA2 would be Hobby Boss. Or is it Trumpeter or Hobby Boss?
It's one or the other. I know Trumpeter's got the 35th scale one.
Yeah, then it's Trumpeter, because it's the same. Yeah, they just scaled it. Trumpeter 72nd scale SA2. Now, if you have the old Airfix one, not bad at all.
It's a bit of a collector's item.
It's a collector's item, but if you put your hands on one and want to build it as a nostalgia build, it builds up to a really nice model of an SA2. But Trumpeter would be the 72nd scale SA2 choice, and then the Patriot battery is all right.
I got no clue. I know Airy made one in 48 scale during one of the Gulf Wars.
Yeah, there is one out there, and I'm trying to remember who it is. It's not Model Collect.
I'm not sure there is one in 72nd scale.
Yeah, there doesn't appear to be one in plastic, at least according to ScaleMates. There's just this military scales 72nd scale 3D print kit, and I know nothing about it. So if anybody out there knows different, please let us know.
And Dave, finally from the email side of things, is Mark Doremus in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
He appreciated all the love for Jim Bates in episode 147.
You mean 157?
He said 147, but you're probably right. 157.
Yeah.
Jim's a great guy, worthy of the praise he's receiving, and he's proud to call him a friend. Well, isn't that nice?
That
so,
is
Jim,
nice.
there you go, buddy.
Yeah, we'll have to cut. You're going to have to cut that out because we can't let Jim get the big head.
It's too late. And he also throws a bunch of kudos at him for the monthly meetings and I guess the Model Mania show at the Museum of Flight.
Yes.
So Jim gives above and beyond. So help him out, folks, if you're out there. Well, that's the email stuff, Dave.
Okay.
What is going on with the direct messages?
We've got a number of direct messages. First, you mentioned Warren Dickinson already. And Warren, along with Jeff Inchai Groves, seems to bound and determined to break my wallet constantly because every time there's a book sale, I get DMs from Jeff Groves. Meanwhile, Warren Dickinson DM'd me because he knows of my decal addiction and he knows that I like DP Casper, the decal company. And he DM'd me to let me know that there were a whole bunch of new sheets that were showing up as future releases on Hannon's site. And I told him that I had actually known that because I had been perusing DP Casper stuff about a week ago. So, yeah.
I'm to stop reminding you.
Yes, exactly. Stop reminding me. But I appreciate Warren thinking of me. The Podfather, Dave Goldfinch, he and I exchanged several DMs regarding his attendance this year at the Nats. He's coming in from Australia to attend the Fort Wayne show. And we were finalizing scheduling and all, so because he's going to fly into Louisville and I'm going to pick him up and he's going to stay at my place for a few days. And then he's talking about wanting to come back again the following year to attend Wonderfest. So I've told him he's welcome to come anytime.
We got to go this year.
What
just
do
for
you
the
mean
day,
we?
man.
I go every year.
I went last year.
Yes, you did.
It was good.
It was. It's always good.
That's a great show.
It
I know
is.
some of the other pod folks are talking about hitting it up too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Next, William Chrisman reached out because you and I had both mentioned ordering from Burbank House of Hobbies, and I joked around about they ought to sponsor us. They don't. But he chimed in because he travels to there several times a year on work, and he always stops by Burbank House of Hobbies, and he absolutely agrees with us regarding their fantastic service, their helpful and friendly employees, and he just wants us to know that he agrees that Burbank House of Hobbies is a good place for getting hobby supplies and hobby-related materials.
And I assume that's first person. We're doing it through the mail.
That's right. So. He goes in a couple of times a year in person.
Well, I think Ed Barrett goes up there every now and then. So he's also had great things to say about the place. So nothing like a good hobby shop. We all know that.
Yep.
That's not news to anyone, is it?
No, that's true. Next is Stephen McDonald, who sent us a long DM, and I replied to him briefly, but I need to get back with him because when I got his original DM, I was out on date night, and it kind of spoils the mood if you're spending your time DMing. But he reached out because I had mentioned considering getting the AK Gen 3 Air box set. And he was interested in it because he recently came into a little bit of money and he's been doing some hobby spending. He got a compressor through Dr. Strangebrush.
Really?
And was considering this Gen 3 Air box set. So he couldn't find what I was talking about. So I sent him a link from the AK website.
Gen 3 or Gen 3 Air?
Yeah.
Which one?
Gen 3. They call it Air because it's aircraft colors, not because it's airbrush.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was confused.
It's not like Vallejo Air.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry for the confusion.
It's not like you can't get confused by all the different manufacturers.
Yeah, really.
There's only a couple.
Yeah, right. We haven't had a new paint in years, right? He also is an engineer married to a lawyer, which I thought was a rather interesting combination.
Kind of like this podcast.
Yes, kind of like this podcast. And he did have some very, very nice things to say about the podcast and what it's meant to him and how motivating he finds it. And
well, send me that.
I will send that to you.
Well, if it's a DM, I can read it.
Well, no, it's a DM to me. So you
Oh, okay.
You're
holding out on me now, huh?
Well, about half the DMs I get are not to the podcast, but are actually directly to me.
Well, that's okay.
Because I'm DM Facebook friends with a lot of listeners, tons of them.
Did your wife know how popular you've become?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Finally,
does she care?
Yeah, well, no, she does not. Finally, from the DM side, I had mentioned on the dojo, X-Acto used to make a lighted X-Acto handle, an X-Acto handle with a flashlight in the end of it through like an acrylic chuck with a light behind it.
Yeah, so it's like a light tube or fiber optic kind of thing.
Yeah. And they stopped making it. And this is my favorite modeling knife handle. I love it. I like the light. And you can't find them anywhere because they stopped producing them years ago. I put out a plea on the dojo and said, if anybody knows anywhere where you can get one of these, let me know. And Mr. Hurt reached out, said he's got one, and that he offered it to me. It was very kind of him. It reinforces to me how, in general, how great modelers are. Just willing to go out of their way to bend over backwards to help fellow modelers. And
so he sent you this thing?
I haven't gotten it yet, but he told me he was going to send it to me.
Oh, that's nice.
It never ceases to amaze me how generous our listeners are. And you guys, it's appreciated. Mike and I both realize it and are very, very thankful for it.
Not bad for listener mail, man.
Nope, not bad at all.
Got anything else?
That's it.
Well, folks, if you want to email the show or DM the show, you can email us by sending us an email, obviously, to plasticmodelmojo@gmail.com. That'll get the email to me, and I'll take those typically. And Dave will take the direct messages off Facebook, and obviously that's Facebook's direct messaging system. Send them on. We really like it. We get some cool stuff, and it makes fun conversation.
There's also a feedback link on our website.
There is.
So you can send it to us that way as well. And we've gotten a few that way, and we appreciate that as well.
Kentucky Dave, we live in some rapidly changing times.
We do.
In my modeling lifetime, we've gone from stock figures to conversions done various different ways to resin figures to LiDAR generated 3D models that become printed figures to a lot of stuff. But we had a listener write in not so long ago about wondering if you could go from an AI prompt to an STL file. And apparently you can.
Yes.
We had Jake McKee back here recently. We had him back because he is actually pushing the envelope here once again and is going to tell us how he's actually pulling this off. And I hope everybody can follow along to what Jake's got to say here, but it was a really interesting conversation. So Dave, what do you think, man?
Let's get on to it.
Well, Dave, back in the end of May last year, listener Eric Kinser wrote in, and we mentioned that in the 12-minute model sphere, and actually in the episode prior to that, about using AI to generate 3D printer STL files for 3D print of figures specifically. So his email closed with the statement, "So is the technology good enough to make this happen?" And we've got somebody here, a recurring guest, Jake McKee from the Austin, Texas area, and he's going to answer this question for us tonight, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me back on again. When you guys have me, I break out my pappy. So, my modeling fluid tonight is always a treat.
Oh, good for you. We've seen figure companies using essentially it's a type of CAD, but they're doing 3D sculpt, to generate STLs for figures. There's even folks out there using LiDAR to bring a model in and clean it up and use that for STLs for 3D printers. But now we're to a different place where you can just about, or absolutely, without doubt, create something from pretty much nothing now. So I'm going to let you talk and get into the project you're working on and how this manifested itself, and get into some of the tools you're using to make this happen, and answer this question. Is the technology good enough to make this happen, being AI prompts to a physical figure in your hands?
So yes, no, and maybe. So
That's always the answer.
Right, exactly. So let me give a little context first.
Sure.
I know I've talked to you guys a little bit. I talked to the small subjects guys at one point about AI in the hobby, and we often hear AI and we think about these high level concepts, or these really terrible videos that we see popping up or whatever, and whatever you might think about some of that stuff, it is what it is. But when I think it's been at least a year, maybe more, since I talked to the small subjects guys about this in depth. And I'm kind of curious now to go back and hear what I had to say, in retrospect, based on what's going on now. But, I'd kind of looked forward at that point and said, there's a lot of opportunity with AI to do a bunch of different things, right? And I was just showing you guys my vibe coded app that I'm using AI to help me organize all the files on my computer so that I can search my STL library, which is ever growing. Way too easy to collect STL files, but it's not as easy to go search them out, right? So I've created a web interface for my computer basically to be able to search much more easily and flag and all that sort of stuff. That's part of what AI is. But the other part that you're specifically referring to is this question of, can you do sculpting with it? And I have 2 projects right now that are well underway doing exactly that. And back to your question that came in about, is the technology good enough to sort of have AI create or sculpt figures? And if that question came back in May, the answer was nope. hard no. I tried it about 6 months ago even, and it was just awful. The stuff that came out of it was just unusable, not even close to consideration. I went in about a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe at this point, and tried it again. And with some work, this is the maybe part, with some work, I got to the yes. And one of the projects I've got active, I have 3 figures that are going to be, they're all 3 AI generated. They're going to be used on the diorama I'm working on. They look great and completely usable. I've got one other project where I was not super particular, and this is something we'll talk about, that super particular piece about the design. I kind of needed this sci-fi looking contraption to strap to a tree, and I had a general idea of what I wanted, but I wasn't replicating something super specific. And same thing, just like the process that we can walk through, but the process that I did with the figures, I did with this little piece of sci-fi technology. And after some tweaking and some playing and some more tweaking and playing, I got something that was something I liked, and it worked for the diorama, and printed it out, and boom, it came out perfect.
Okay, let me ask a super layman question. When you say generating a figure from an AI prompt, an STL file that you can print, what does the prompt look like? I mean, do you take a photograph and say, can you reproduce this figure in 3D in an STL file? Or how? Walk me through what that means, because I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, totally fair. So there's a couple of answers to that, or a couple of opportunities you can take advantage of. Okay. One is what you're talking about, what we know about AI, right? You go into ChatGPT, you type, hey, I want something, and out it comes. You can do that with generating STLs, but it's not very good.
Okay.
In part because just the type of technology that's going on, and the way that ChatGPT is tuned to be, much more text and and voice conversational, right?
Right.
But we've started to see that it can generate static images. And so the process I've been using is, I first think about what's the plan here? What is it that I need? Right. So for instance, I needed a photographer figure of one of the three of them that I'm working on for this diorama. And so I thought, okay, what kind of photographer? What does he look like? Well, it's from the 1950s, early 1950s. So that kind of dictated the dress. And I wanted him to be using a medium format camera that he's got a kind of leaning over to look down the top of. And so once I had that in mind, I went into, in this case, it started with ChatGPT and just said, make me a photorealistic image of a photographer doing those things, dressed like this, so on. And it kicked out a version of that, that photorealistic, net new image. And it was
And
pretty
that was
close.
just an image file.
It was just an image file so far.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're prompting it first. Okay, let me see what it would look like as a picture.
Well, yes, because so right now, a huge part of AI is that there's very few solutions unless you're doing some really minimal stuff that are only one tool at a time, right? Right now, and that's already changing dramatically. It's going to continue to change dramatically. At some point, I'll be able to go into some particular tool and say, here's exactly what I want, no matter what that output is, and one step, and boom, it's there. Right now, it's not. So part of this was to first develop the image of the thing that I wanted. And that took some effort. The first thing that came in was, it was okay. There's another one that had some weird shoulder bag thing. And I'm like, that guy never would have been wearing that. So I had to continue to refine that prompt and keep going. And, part of it is the prompt process. If anybody's been using GPT for anything, or Claude or any of them, how you talk to the AI improves the way that the results come back, right? And the same thing here. And sometimes I go into it with a very specific plan of exactly what I need and work towards that. Other times I'm like, well, I know I need a photographer, but I don't really have a vision in my head. So let's work together on this one, ChatGPT. And I created the photo. And once I had a very good photo that was the right pose, the right clothing, the right equipment on him, then I took it into a site called Meshi.ai, MESHY.ai. And then I eventually started using Tripo, I think, TRIPO. It seems to be doing a little better job, but it takes a whole lot longer. But basically, I put that photo in and say, turn this into a 3D model. And it takes a couple of times. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, or it adds artifacts that I'll have to go back into that photo and either take it into Photoshop and clean it up before I take it into Meshi, or I go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, recreate this image without this particular thing in place. And there's a lot of back and forth there, right? But then once it's coming out of Meshi or Tripo, you're getting the STL file, and it prints perfect, prints really well. That does a really great job of designing some things most of the time. This is the yes, no, maybe, right? There's some times where, like, I have three figures, a photographer, an art director, and a driver. The driver has been an ongoing effort because of his weird position, sitting in with his knees up to his chest, and, the steering wheel in the middle of his hands. And that it's so compact, that's really problematic. The art director standing there with a pad of paper and, having his hand in the air and wearing a certain outfit, that was super easy. I think it was the third or fourth attempt at getting the image, and it was basically the first run through Meshi to get the STL, right? That one was super easy. It's been several weeks for the driver. I'm still working on that guy, but and I'm learning a lot along the way, right? It is all about kind of what you prompt, how you think about the process, that sort of thing. That just takes some practice to get familiar with the tools. That help, Dave?
Now, yes, absolutely. You explained the process beautifully, and it kind of was somewhat like I was imagining it in my mind. Now, when you get the STL file, do you then take it into CAD software and clean it up at all? Or do you do most of your cleanup in the AI?
So if I knew Blender, it would be a different answer. But
Okay.
learning Blender is a baton death march towards, losing all of your time. But if I ever had the matrix function to just be able to jack knowledge into the back of my head, that would probably be the first thing I'd start with is Blender. But maybe that and karate, I don't know.
You go.
The jujitsu or something. But if I knew Blender, then I'd probably just knock it out as fast as I could and then take it into Blender and get it exactly right. Because I don't, and because I'm also trying to experiment and learn the AI workflow, I was trying to do everything within the AI workflow without having to clean up anything, even using Photoshop, right? There was one place where the photographer had this bag, kind of like a photo bag that was slung over one shoulder, but the way that the Meshi.ai tool was interpreting the photo and turning it into the STL was putting a strap on both sides. And it was this weird artifact of how the image pose was done. And so I just went in Photoshop and, took a really rough white brush on his white shirt with the black strap and painted it out and ran it back through, and it was perfectly fine after that. It didn't have to be, photorealistic quality to fix it.
Gotcha.
Interesting. So, you mentioned Blender. Blender's not really a traditional parametric CAD program. It's more for like organic design.
Correct. Yeah. So if you think about the mechanical, the straight lines and the sharp angles, that's Fusion. That's the CAD software. The Blender is sort of like ZBrush and some others that allow you to do that more traditional sculpting, right? If you can think about it as machining versus sculpting clay, so to speak. And Blender is an incredibly robust, powerful tool, but it's a bit of a nightmare to learn. So, I'm getting there slowly but surely with some small things here and there. But, the nice thing is if I did know Blender, and this is part of what I'm working on learning right now, is I could take the figure, for instance, that the driver figure I have, his knees aren't in the right place, but his legs are modeled perfectly fine based on the STL I have. I could take that into Blender and just basically remap where his leg bends, and it would automatically, and I say automatically with a bunch of work, would be able to move it, kind of repose him in the way that animators are using digital imagery and, kind of reposing them inside the software.
It's to me, it's interesting, and maybe it's even frustrating when either these artifacts or the guy's got 7 fingers or, all these things you see, kind of with low end AI image development or creation, just to, people knocking around on it, and you get some of these crazy looking things that's just not quite right. Have you had much of that, or have these things been pretty manageable for you? Or I guess probably it's an iterative thing. And maybe the first pass is really, and then it just gets better from there once you chip away at it.
Yeah, it definitely is a garbage in, garbage out situation, right? Like I said, when that driver figure who's sitting, looking over his shoulder, are both hands on the steering wheel, knees in driving position, that's a lot for that AI right now anyway. Maybe not later, but probably to some extent forever. That's a lot to interpret, right? That's a lot to sort of extrapolate where if I've only got one photo, what's it going to look like on the other side of that photo if all these posing things are in the way that they are. The guy standing up with both of his arms kind of out to his side, that was great. That was almost no work for me, right? Because it was such a straightforward picture. When I did that little sci-fi, tree mounted thing that I'm working on, that was fairly straightforward as well, because it was, the picture I created was pretty linear. And one of these days you'll hopefully see it, but it wasn't complex as far as the organic shapes. It was much more inorganic in its shape, right? So, and maybe that's the easiest way to think about it, is the more organic, lots of curves, lots of bends, lots of organic shapes that are not straight lines. That gets a lot harder for the machines to interpret. But if it's a lot of straight lines, it's a lot easier for the machine to interpret. So, again, garbage in, garbage out.
Well, it's certainly going to open up a lot of possibilities for the dioramists to get exactly what they want, which is it's essentially, that's exactly what you're doing with this. You've got these 3 unique figures. In the past, you would have gotten as close as you could with commercial figures and hacked them up and puttied them and all that mess. And that's fun for a lot of people too. I've never liked reposing figures, so this has a lot of interest for me. What can you say about that as far as the creative possibility of getting exactly what you want and the storytelling aspect of it and how that all kind of comes together with being able to do custom figures on the fly like this?
Yeah, and I think that's the most intriguing, exciting, fascinating thing for me is exactly what you're talking about, that it opens up the creative ideas pretty significantly. I have long said that what impresses me about every one of us in the hobby, no matter who it is that's working on whatever project, we have a lot of skill sets in our brains at any one time, right? Not only do you have to be really good at building, you also have to be really good at color theory and painting, and you also have to be really good at ideation, and you really have to be good at groundwork and all the things, right? These are, if you're a painter, you're kind of painting on canvas with the same types of oils over and over again. Nothing, no knock on that at all whatsoever, but it doesn't have 14 other mediums that are part of this process in order to get to the finished product, right? And there's a natural inclination for some people to really enjoy some stuff more than other stuff, right? We hear this all the time that, I really like building, I just hate painting, or I really like getting it to the base coat, but I hate weathering, right? Or I like doing all of it and really pulling it together with a great story, and that's my fascination is storytelling or whatever. And I think that for me, the figure posing, kind of like you were saying, I know I theoretically could do it. I just have never really had a lot of fascination in it or, drive to go out there and start hacking up figures. And it's just not where I want to put my time and energy, And especially as I've been trying to really push myself on storytelling and sort of overall diorama approach, not just the vehicle or the figure on it, but the whole, as the chefs say, everything on the plate, and kind of considering that whole everything on the plate mindset. I really have these ideas that in the past I wasn't able to, either from skill or access or time, to go in and create all these things net new, right? And there's an argument to be made, sort of, I guess, that well, at some point you're just going to plug this in, it's going to come out painted, and you're done. Well, cool, but it's going to be a long time before there's no work at all involved in that. Lots of people still like to do digital sculpting just for the digital part of it, not for the actual printing of it. Lots of people like to do digital artwork that never gets printed and hung on a wall in a gallery, right? That's just their joy in the process. And so, I've really been having fun focusing on, this diorama idea I'm working on. If I can pull it off, it's going to be really cool and unique. But in a million years, I wouldn't have ever even thought to try this idea if I couldn't have otherwise come up with these very custom figures. And there are none of these 3 figures don't exist out there in the world.
That makes me ask a question. You talk about creating these figures from the AI prompts. Have you tried taking a historical photograph and creating the figure using AI to create the figure in the photograph?
So here's where, I mentioned a second ago, how much you care really has an impact. So this diorama I'm working on right now has 3 civilian figures. And if they have buttons in the wrong order, or, the vest is cut in a very specific way that is not what I initially had in mind, then I kind of don't care. It's close enough to be perfectly fine, and it's not something I'm getting wound up with. This sci-fi thing is imaginative sci-fi, and so if I think it looks cool, good enough, right?
Right.
To your point, though, if I said, I want to recreate a motorcycle rider from 1914 World War II British in this pose and these uniform garments and this amount of equipment, and they have to be exactly accurate to this. I mean, now you're pushing, right? In a year, maybe, right? That may be a whole lot more possible, because I do think that the speed at which these things are improving has become dramatic at this point. It's not just impressive. It's just mind-blowing how fast the improvements are, right? So maybe another year or 2 years, then we could take a single historical photo of a uniform, plug it in, set our pose dynamically, and spit the STL out, and we go from there. But right now, if you're going to start playing, I'd play with something that didn't have to be absolutely historically accurate.
What's next, man? What are you gonna? I guess you got to finish the driver.
The world's your oyster.
Well,
Yeah, I've got to
let me
finish the
back up. Let me
driver.
back up first.
Yeah.
Because that makes me wonder if you've tried something. The Jeep driver's area could be brought in as a model, and I wonder how that might get into actually letting the AI pose the figure.
And so the more complexity you add, the less likely you're going to get the result that you want. So in theory,
That makes sense.
The easiest way in theory to do this is exactly what you're talking about. And in fact, I was even thinking the other day that, the Ming Jeep kit that I have that I'm working off of, the ejector pin holes on the back of the seats are insanely deep. And I was irritated by it. So I was curious if I could, in sort of the same time, not exactly the same amount of time, certainly not a 1-to-1, but close enough. Could I model, could I go into Fusion, model the seats, print them out, and have them close enough to be even better than the kit part and not have to do that stupid ejector hole cleanup? Because y'all, mine, they are deep. I know not everybody has the same ones, but these two seats are just ridiculous. And no, I couldn't do it in the same amount of time, but I did it. So those seats exist now. I've 3D printed them. They look great. They're even more detailed than the kit parts, which is awesome. So I was thinking, I wonder if I could try and do all this together. To your point, get that seat somehow baked in, but well, does that need to have the Jeep body itself in there? Does it need to have the seat? How do I get the seat from Fusion into this other workflow, right? That then matches it to the driver's seat. And, you're just adding a ton of complexity at that point. I think the better option really, and one of the options I've been exploring is to actually find somebody who knows Blender. I've got a guy that I found on Upwork years ago that does Illustrator work for me. So if I need, here's an image, turn this into a vector file so I can put it in the logo in a CAD design or a presentation for work or something. In like 20 minutes, he'll knock that task out that I could learn how to do it. It'd take me a couple of hours to learn how to do it in Illustrator. And I don't really like Illustrator, so I don't want to learn it. It's not interesting to me. And for $5 and 20 minutes, I'm perfectly fine to spend that money, right? I'm trying to do the same thing with Blender so that I can basically get these figures close enough and then say, hey, can you go and tweak his arm, move it 10 degrees to the right and move it up. And, I'll send you the STL, make it match, right? And, if you know Blender, those are sort of straightforward things. They're not really that difficult. But if you don't know Blender, then it takes forever to get to the point where you can do that correctly and effectively. So, that's part of what I've been playing with is what can I do to help the workflow overall? Because again, we're not in the one step process yet. It does take a bunch of steps to get to, and some work to get to that point. But I like this process better than trying to learn Blender, so I can take the time to carve all the to sculpt all these things myself. Because if I was sculpting it in Blender from scratch, it certainly wouldn't take the amount of time that the AI kicking out something that's almost there that I can then just tweak a little bit takes, right?
I've got a question for you. You mentioned 3 AIs, ChatGPT, what was I forget
Meshi.
Meshi
and Tripo.
Tripo. How many AIs have you played with this stuff in, and is there reasons you're using particular AIs? Because there are a ton of them out there.
There are, and they each sort of are better or worse at different things, right? So I started this journey with these 3 figures in ChatGPT, developing the images. This is what I'm talking about. Things are moving so fast. In the week or so that I started messing with these figures and felt like I had a decent result from ChatGPT with the photorealistics first step, Gemini updated their image creator capability. And in some ways, with some figures, it was vastly better at image generation. And of course, all of their image generation is 30 times as fast as what ChatGPT was taken to do, which is also helpful when you're doing a bunch of versions of it. So each one kind of has its own different flavor. Like I said, Meshi takes almost no time to generate these models, whereas Tripo takes sometimes 15 minutes to generate the model. But they come out of Tripo much, much better most of the time. Not always, but most of the time I've seen them come out in a much better, much more accurate representation of that photorealistic image. But I've also gone in and had times where two very similar posed figures come out of one AI much better than they come out of the other AI, right? And so it's right now, because there isn't one sort of perfect solution or, industry leading solution, so to speak. I've just been playing. This is part of the process. It's sort of like when, MIG or AK comes out with some new product and you try it and
Right.
you're like, it's okay. I like the idea, but this didn't really work that great. And then you try another company and it really works well. And you're like, oh, this is fantastic. It's kind of the VMS versus AK thing that, a lot of people say I love VMS and I can't ever make it worth the damn, but they certainly can. So it's kind of what you're comfortable with, what you can make work, and what fits your workflow more than anything.
Now, a related question, are you using the free versions, the publicly available versions, or are you actually paying for the professional, the one where you actually pay the subscription?
Yes. So I'm not in all the stuff that is part of my daily workflow, I'm probably paying something for it. Part of that's because, through work, I've been I've been building some vibe coded apps to help me offload some of my work skills. And so, I'm already paying for Lovable, right? The vibe coding platform that helps build websites and stuff. And so, since I already have that, I have used that to build out that organizational tool that I was talking about. I already pay for ChatGPT and Claude as part of the work that I do for a living. And so, those tools are accessible to me. I believe Google's tool is free.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm paying anything for Gemini at the moment. So, and this is part of where we're going, right? Is some of these things are going to get better and more free based on ad revenue, or getting you to go use Gemini so you can also buy these other suites of tools. But right now, yeah, and I'm paying for the subscriptions for for those tools. And this weekend I was working on 3 different vibe coded apps, one the hobby one and my 2 work ones that I'm working on. And I hit my Claude usage limit for the day for the first time. I've reached the number of images you can have in one chat, which is 100, by the way, in Claude. Didn't know that was a limit, but there you go. But for stuff like Meshi and Tripo, you basically are buying tokens just like you would at an arcade. And you put a token in the slot, or a series of tokens, to play the game just like you'd play, Smash TV or Pole Position or something. My 2 favorite games, by the way. And you play the game, and then when it's done, you put more quarters in to get the next gameplay, right? And so those are kind of how you're doing that. It's you're basically buying time on the server, effectively.
Right.
Well, I had a question, but you've kind of answered it. Is how do you got to where you are with the AI usage as an interest, and just and it sounds like it's been initially driven by your professional life, and now it's crept into your hobby life. That's a lot of, some things lend themselves to that, some don't. And I have a lot of overlap with my work and my hobby life, but it's all technical. It's all hard skills and making stuff and taking stuff apart and putting it back together. It's kind of like what I do at my workbench when I'm modeling. So I can understand that, but AI is kind of new and kind of neat. And I assume you've figured out how to apply this in your business, and it's just kind of bled over.
Yeah. And I'm generally fascinated by things and generally do work that I love. And so the line between work and home is often pretty fuzzy.
Yeah.
I take a lot of what I learn in the hobby, or, whether it's my photography work or whether it's my scale modeling or other things. Yeah, there's always something I can learn or apply in the work, and the work also comes into what I'm doing in the hobby. Not always directly. The Venn diagram isn't 2 circles overlapping. It's still a Venn diagram. But, in the case of AI, one of the things that I find fascinating about AI generally as a concept is that whatever you think about it, it's here to stay. So we all need to be practicing and learning and figuring out, where does it fit? It's like any other tool. Where does it fit? But this tool is actually a pretty remarkable change of how we need to be thinking about the world around us, because, I've built 3 extremely robust tools, 2 for work and this hobby tool for myself, that would have taken thousands and thousands of dollars in developer time, weeks of developer time to get to this basic fundamental place where I'm at. And it's because of the AI, and it's because as I've been saying often, I'm dreaming bigger, right? We have to sort of rethink our dreams and our challenges to ourselves, because part of what happened when I started building that organizer, all I really wanted to do was find some sort of viewer app to be able to look at a bunch of messy folders and turn it into something without touching the folders. I didn't want to start moving files around on my computer or anything like that. I just wanted to have a view that sat on top of that infrastructure and make it much easier to use. Well, as soon as I got that in place, I started saying, well, this is pretty cool. And then, as so many of the things in my life, my hobby life go, I started talking to Matt McDougall over lunch, and he started saying, well, how about this? And what about this? And before you know it, I was chasing, a much bigger dream of all kinds of stuff I could add to the tool. And one of the things I added, for instance, into my hobby vibe code app is a brick, cobblestone, and stone pattern generator. Mike, I know with laser cutting, you need like an SVG file that tells the laser where to go and what to cut.
Yeah.
Right? So when I'm doing a diorama and I want a piece of foam that has a really intricate stone pattern, I can do all that hand carving, but I've been playing a lot with trying to get the laser to cut that pattern into the foam directly, whether it's brick or cobblestone or, a rough stone wall or whatever. But I've been making those patterns by hand with Illustrator, and I hate Illustrator. So,
yeah, I do too.
As we've discussed just a second ago, it's not my favorite tool. I don't want to be in there if I don't have to be. And I thought, what, I got to be able to generate this. And so I started talking to Claude and saying, hey, here's the tool I want to build. Here's the output I want it to be, on and on and on. And the more that I saw an idea work, I started thinking, okay, but what else can I generate? Like, what else can I take off my plate that is a repeatable, standardized process, right? So on the brick wall, I go in and I pull foam out to remove bricks sometimes, right? To make it look like the wall's beat up. Well, I can just tell Claude, add a setting to toggle on missing bricks. Well, yeah, but I don't want it to always be in the same place. Well, you add a randomization function, and now it's a randomized amount of bricks. You don't like where those are, hit the button, and it regenerates those random brick patterns. And so on and on and on. There's I don't know how many features I have added to this thing now, but as you start as your mind starts to open up to, this one thing's what got me started. But now that I see this one thing working, and you start thinking in that what AI can do for you sort of mindset, then all of a sudden there's 50 ideas that are rushing to you when you're just driving down the street, and you're like, oh man, when I get home, I got to tell the Lovable app to go add this feature to the thing I'm working on, because that's pretty cool. Or you're sitting at your bench going, man, I got a problem here. I always have this problem. I could probably automate this. I probably could build a tool to catalog that, or make that, save those notes, or, whatever it might be that you're struggling with. So, it really is fascinating to me how the human brain starts to, it's the seeding. And then once you've gotten something seeded, it starts to really grow and expand. And sort of like bamboo sometimes, right? That, one little stalk of bamboo turns into your entire backyard if you're not careful.
Put aside for the moment all the time you spent generating the app and working in the AI to create this cobblestone pattern generation tool. If you use the tool and the laser cutter to generate a cobblestone street, compared to sitting down with the piece of foam and the toothpick and straight edge or whatever, your normal tools to do it by hand, what's the time comparison for, okay, I tell my laser cutter to generate this cobblestone street, as opposed to I sit down at my bench with my hobby tools and I make the cobblestone street by hand?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of once you've passed the learning curve, you mean? And you just, you kind of got the knowledge.
Assume all that you're now good at it. At it. You've got the software working the way you want.
Well, so I think I'll give you two answers for that. One's the straightforward answer, which is, honestly, I think once you get that, once the pattern generator tool exists, right? So if you came in tomorrow and started using it, once I've gotten it dialed in, and you spit out that SVG to then take into your laser cutter software, you throw a piece of foam on there, and 10 minutes later, you've got, a carved piece of foam. You're still going to go back and texture it. You're still going to go back and do all that work.
Right.
In theory, I could also just output an STL and print it, and then boom, it's done. I don't have to do any foam work, right? The texture would already be built in, all that. But it's really a matter of preference in some ways, right? There are people that buy figures. There are people that sculpt figures. There are people that, buy pre-mixed washes. There's people that mix their own, because it's all sort of where you like spending your time. And the reality is we only have so much time. And for me, there's stuff that I'm not beholden to any sort of philosophy that says if I'm not doing this particular thing by hand, then I'm doing it wrong. Right. When I looked at, I just forgot his name. I think it's the VG dioramas guy that's doing such amazing, building, kits, that he's doing these really amazing 3D printed designs. And I think it's VG. I'll send you a link to make sure you can put it in the show notes, but I think it's VG dioramas, guy from Spain, nicest guy in the world. He's doing absolutely dead crazy, insane, great work, right? It is wonderful, but it's all the stuff that I find the most interesting. Right. I can buy one of his 3D printed factory dioramas and throw a vehicle in it and paint it, and it's going to look great. For me, as Jeff Feller at SMC and I were talking about this, and he was saying, yeah, but I really like making walls.
Yeah.
Walls are fun. And same way, for me, I like the process of working with foam. What bothers me about the process of working with foam is trying to make sure I'm always measuring exactly right. Like, it's the carving, it's the texturing, it's the painting that I really enjoy. It's not the drawing the straight lines at the right dimensions to make sure that it doesn't look wonky when I'm done. Right. That part's not interesting to me. So I'm taking the parts that I don't enjoy and sort of offloading them to give myself more time to do the parts I really do enjoy.
That makes perfect sense.
And I said it in the 12-minute model sphere that you're probably the most tech forward modeler I know of that I've had any kind of substantive interaction with. And, we've had you on before. You've been doing, and we've talked laser cutting offline, and I got something I want to talk to you about that maybe via email later in the week. But anyway, you're doing all these cool things, man. And it makes me want to do some cool stuff too. But a lot of things, well, I don't know. With the figures though, that one really interests me because, like I said, I don't like posing figures. I just don't think mine ever come out very good. But there are, I like painting figures sometimes. But be it figures or whatever, there's got to be a balance, I guess, between what you like and what you don't like. And you just articulated that pretty well a few minutes ago. Where do you see you applying this kind of stuff going forward? I mean, is there anything you haven't done yet that you're wanting to do, either with the figures or a CAD design or anything really, through the AI specifically?
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad you clarified that, because I was going to say, is there anything I want to do? And finish more things is definitely the top of my list.
That's all of us.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Every single one of. I've yet to meet a modeler who said, "You know what? I want to finish fewer models."
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think that I'm kind of making a joke about that, but that really is part of. There's something joyful about getting a project to completion, right? And the reality is, with 3 kids, a full-time job, other hobbies, as much as I absolutely adore scale modeling, there's only so much time in a day that's left over, right?
Right.
And so finding ways that I can really have a great time doing stuff is the most important thing for me. And so trying to figure out where are the where are the new techniques? Where are the interesting things? How do I start to create my own palette of options that I really enjoy instead of, the palette of options that we had accessible to us, right? I've heard some conversation. I read some conversation online about like the contrast painting method or slap chop or the new AK quick gen paints that in theory you paint a white base coat and then you dump a bunch of paint on it and the paint all runs where the darker pigment goes into the recesses and the lighter the medium kind of is what colors the highlights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of wargamer people out there or people painting the little mini figures that most of that kind of work would be perfectly fine with them and they're happy. Cool. All right. But you look at what Calvin Tan's doing with it and he's combining the normal paints with the quick gen paints and a whole bunch of other techniques and making incredible works much more enjoyably and probably much more quickly too, for that matter. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I don't think that that's a problem. And I don't think that going into AI to help you develop your figures instead of sculpting is a bad thing any more than me saying, well, I'm going to go out and buy this existing Dynamo Models figure. It's a great build. It looks wonderful and it fits exactly what I had in mind. And so I'm just going to buy that and I don't have to sculpt my own, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says, oh, you didn't sculpt your own figures. You're not a real modeler. So,
Right.
I think that
Well,
it
somebody
really is,
probably did.
Yeah, I was going to say
Ignore 'em.
there's at least one guy out there who has said something like that.
Yeah, and we're chuckling about that, right?
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
I think that's the same thing here. Is it's one thing to. There are things that I print out on, especially on my filament printer, where I want a little fidget toy, for whatever reason, something to play with when I'm sitting here on Zoom calls, and so I go on the Bamboo Labs site and I find something that looks cool and I print it out and I'm done and I've got it and that's amazing and I had so much fun now and I'm holding it in my hands. And so, there's nothing wrong with that. I think the question is, what's your particular palette of tools, digital, physical, or otherwise? But for me, I think, back, Mike, to your question about, kind of where do I go from here? I don't know. Part of that's, retraining my brain right now to be able to think in advance of, not be kind of as surprised at ideas, but to start thinking about, I've gotten enough understanding of how this AI tool works, whether it's figure sculpting or website creation or, ideation or whatever it might be. There's been some times where I've gone into ChatGPT and I've said, I've got this rough idea. I don't know where it's going, but I think there's something here. Point me in the right direction. And it gives me 3 ideas. And I'm like, man, all those are great. But that now gives me a 4th idea that I hadn't thought of before that I probably wouldn't have bridged into if not for that help. Right. And I think so some of that, it all goes back for me. It goes back to being able to realize more interesting, more in-depth, more challenging builds and concepts and ideas, thanks to being able to offload some of the hard work that, may or may not be all that interesting to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned a little bit in our discussion about how while you were working on things, the softwares got better. What is the delta looking like into the future? I mean, do you think, given what you've experienced so far, how rapidly are these different AI tools getting better at what you're asking them to do?
Yeah, there's 2 parts to the answer to that, as so often is the case with me.
Right.
There's a tool getting better and there's a us getting better.
Gotcha.
And they're both rapidly growing, right? As I said, if you had talked in May, but not even May, if you had talked to me in November, I think was the first time I tried to output the figures. I tried it with both the text prompt, right, where you go in and you say, I want a figure into a tool like Meshi or Tripo. You can type in, I want a World War II soldier, and you don't have to give it any photo. What it gives you is just randomly whatever it decides is a great thing to give you, right?
Right.
That ability is inherently, from a technical standpoint, feels like it's getting better hour by hour, right? Not even day by day or week by week, but it feels like hour by hour it's getting better. And that will continue on. And especially as the people who are developing these tools get a better understanding of how they're working and they continue to add their own knowledge on top of their own knowledge, right? That the tool themselves is going to get better. But the other part of this is, I spend a lot of my time talking about conversation in a business context, right? That so many product teams, for instance, have a hard time really making great products because they're getting the insights handed to them, right? And so, part of the reason why that's the case is because they've lost some of the conversational skills that go into talking to customers in an effective way. Not, maybe they talk to them. A lot of them don't talk to them directly anymore. They rely on the sales team or the customer service team. And we're kind of having to retrain our brains on that conversational soft skill. And the reality is that is what we are doing with AI. The same way that I have to learn how to converse with AI, I'm having to learn how to converse with my wife is different than how I converse with my colleagues, different than my clients, different than the person that delivers my groceries, right? They're different types of conversations, but learning that process is also getting better for all of us. The more that you use it, the more you go, oh, if I ask it in a certain way, or if I structure the prompt in this particular way, it's going to yield a better result for me, right? Or I'll get to a better result without so much churn, doing iteration after iteration. I know how it's going to work. I know what the reaction is going to be. Much the same way that if I say something in a particular fashion at a particular time, I know my wife's not going to be happy with me in the way that I said it or the timing I used, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It is often predictable. Unfortunately, often after I've said it, but still it's predictable, right? And I think that's part of what we're all learning is how to have that interaction, that relationship, so to speak, with the AI. And we're getting better at that while the AI is getting better as well at understanding us and performing what we're asking of it. So, the reality is that if you start thinking about AI not as this technical tool that can output things in a certain way, but thinking about it as a creative and critical partner that is getting better every day at understanding us, that moves from the intern role that basically is only guided by what we tell them to do and into a senior manager role that we give it some basic structure and it can figure out based on its experience with us, how to fill in the blanks much more easily, then, it'll get to a point where I can say, I need a driver figure and it needs to be in this pose and these clothes, and boom, it comes out exactly right. It's not far-fetched to think that that's possible because we are so close to that being almost possible now.
If you had to guess, how far away are we time-wise from that?
I think it goes probably sooner than whatever we might guess.
Gotcha.
Honestly, that's kind of the answer I've been giving on anything AI is, AI timeline is sooner than we're probably assuming. I think that, in May, this was May of last year, this whole figure thing was a non-issue. It just wasn't even a glimmer in the eye of hope that we could pull this off. Today, it's pretty good, right? It's usable, completely usable. I think, when we have this conversation a year from now, I think that the way that this stuff works is going to be dramatically different. And I think that, the conversational interface will change, the same way that we're basically teaching AI and training AI on human behavior patterns. And so if you want to know the answer to where AI is going, it is as much about understanding human dynamics and human interaction skills and human relationships as it is the technology piece. So the same way that, you teach your kids to push in the chair at the table when they get up and take their dishes and put it in the sink rinsed off, that doesn't start there. And maybe you can get them to push in the chair the first time, but they forget the plate. And then after 6 months, you get them to, finally start getting it to the sink, but it's not rinsed off. And you just have to keep iteratively pushing that further and further with the hope that they have the ability to teach their own kids at some point those same skills, right? Because they know them so well. And so if we take that parallel into AI, I think it's the same thing. I think we're going to get to a point where I don't have to tell it as much. It just understands the basic goal. It's got those skills to make those changes, make those actions happen. And, that's, we're moving in that direction at the moment. It's, that's where we're going. So the question I always come back to is, what's your big dreams? So for me, the big dream is I can describe the things that I normally would tell a shopkeeper. Hey, do you have any figures that are in this basic pose? And they go, I got something like this. And instead of it being almost close or close enough that I'd have to modify the idea in my head a little bit. The AI says, yeah, I got that for you. Here you go. And I go, excellent. I'm off to implement my concept.
Well, other folks are going to want to implement their concepts. And they might overlap yours, Jake. To what degree is this being documented on your blog, and where can folks find that?
Yeah, good question. So my blog is at build.jakemckee.com. I'm sure you'll put a link in the show notes,
Sure.
But I'm working on an article that kind of summarizes all the rambling that I did tonight and some of the learnings that I've got. I will put that. I hopefully will get that up this week. So maybe by the time that this episode drops, it'll already be posted on my blog. And I think the other piece of this is just start playing. Go get. I think Meshi and Tripo have some like starter accounts. That you can do a few things to play around with. But the best way to learn this stuff is not to listen to me. It's to go play with it and see. Start to learn what it can do. Even if you just have an understanding of it, so you can start thinking about what the possibilities might be, and at some point the technology will catch up to your interest level or your time you want to invest in this learning process. But if you really want to play, the best way to learn is just to jump in.
I've got to say, it's inspired by everything you've been talking about, and it just popped into my head. I've got a Cameo cutter, mask cutter is what I use it for. Have you tried using AI to create masks rather than, using the software for the cutter to basically draw the files?
Yes, in a couple of ways. So the laser cutters work off of SVG files, or I think some of them can use a PNG file, the vector image files.
Yeah.
And basically you're creating line work that the laser knows where to lay down the cuts on the material, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've used AI a couple of times to either create or clean up some like logo designs that I've had, on my F-14 pilot. I've got some like angel wings on the side of his helmet. Those angel wings, I went into AI and said, hey, I want some angel wings that go on a helmet, and they should be kind of this style. And it outputted something that I said, yeah, that was basically what I had in mind. Not exactly right, but close enough that I don't care to go any further.
Right.
I had it output an SVG file. I took that SVG file into my laser cutter software and set up some Tamiya sheet tape to cut on, and away we went. And so so that's the same thing as what the brick pattern generator is doing that I've got. If I want to make that a stencil, then it's the exact same process. It spits out an SVG file. I take it into the software and it cuts away.
You have inspired me to start playing around with some of this stuff because
there you go.
Yes. Well, I've got to echo what Mike said. You really are the most, not just tech forward, but tech forward thinker about what all this tech can do in our hobby. And it's endlessly fascinating to me.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Those kind words. I just like playing. This is as much the hobby for me as anything is, trying to figure out, is there something that I can do to make this faster, better, and more fun at the same time, right? And I like playing with the toys. I like playing with the laser cutter and the 3D printers and the CAD softwares and the AI tools to spit out stuff, and in order to get to these really cool and interesting ideas that I almost certainly wouldn't have been able to pull off otherwise.
All right, Jake. Well, thanks once again for joining us once again. It's about your third trip here, I think, but it's always maybe fourth. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, we have to have him back on sooner rather than laiter, because I'll bet you 6 months from now, a lot of this has changed. Yeah.
Oh, Dave, I'm positive that'll be the case. I'd love to come back on. I will make sure to save some Pappy for that time as well. And, I'm sure there's a episode count where I'll get my 000 number.
You'll get a 00 and you get the gold jacket. Once you've been,
all right.
It's like SNL. Right. Once you've hosted 5 times, you get that jacket.
Okay, I didn't know we had Mojo jackets. This is fantastic.
We're working on it.
You can put me down for a, I don't know, 33 regular. I don't know how they size this thing.
All right, sir. We'll let you get back to your AI and your laser cutter. Thank you.
And your pappy.
And your pappy, most importantly.
Oh, no, it's gone. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you prompting me to pull it out and, dip into it a little bit.
Makes me wish we were side by side. Maybe I could have some too, but I'll have to get my own, I guess.
It's here waiting for you, Mike. You come right on to Austin. I'll be happy to serve you up a decent pour, not a big pour.
I understand. I understand.
It's a limited
completely.
quantity,
That's right. Yeah. Well, keep innovating and keep doing cool projects with all your cool toys, man. It's really fun to watch.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Man, did you follow along, Dave? Did you keep up?
Yes, and I actually was DMing as you said, we recorded this interview about a week ago. I have not stopped thinking about this since we talked with Jake. The possibilities, and not only where things are now, but where you can imagine them being in just a year or two.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. It really does. And I got to say, I'm fascinated with what he's doing, and knowing him, he's going to keep pushing the edge and the envelope, and I cannot wait to see what he does next.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, man.
Yeah.
And I told him during the interview that, he is absolutely, of folks I've personally interacted with, he's absolutely the most tech forward facing modeler that I know personally.
I agree.
It's a blast to see all the things he's doing. We have a few offline conversations about things sometimes, laser cutting, things like that, but really, really cool. And I can't wait to see that diorama or that vignette or whatever he's going to call it when it's done. It's a really interesting project. Since we recorded that, he's posted the blog portion of that on his website, and we'll put all that in the show notes, and really curious where this goes.
Me too.
Pretty dang cool, man.
Yep.
Model builders know Bases by Bill for innovative display solutions for any scale model project. Bases by Bill creates custom hardwood bases with engraved or full-color placards that include text, unit emblems, and national insignia for the perfect finishing touch on your next aircraft, armor, or ship. And when your aircraft project is complete, show it off in style. Choose from aircraft carrier decks from World War II to the modern era, or airfield-style bases that showcase any aircraft. With contest and show season here, Bases by Bill can also craft your club's major awards, plus 1, 2, 3, or gold, silver, bronze. A wide range of styles and options are perfect for clubs of any size and budget. Visit basesbybill.com, because there's always something new at Bases by Bill.
Kentucky Dave, I know your bench time has not been what you hoped it would be, but I'm sure you're going to improve on that. And I'm certain our listeners are going to goad you on now that you've copped to the fact that it's been lackluster.
Yeah.
That said, you have gotten something done, I'm certain. So don't disappoint us, man. What have you got going on?
Well, work on the F6F continues. I'm about halfway through the process with the tube oils on the panel, working on the panel lines. I wish it was farther along, but unfortunately, the way time has fallen, it's tough, but I'm still hoping to get everything done and still have it done in time for Heritage Con, but we'll see. In the meantime, I'm also working on the Platts T33, the project that was in suspense for 8 years, but has been pulled back into the light.
It's like Ted Williams' head.
Yeah, that's right. To me, it really, it's nice to pull one off the shelf like that and to feel motivated to go ahead and build the project again or take the project on to completion. So I'm happy to report I'm fired up about it.
Well, good.
So that's it for my bench, Mike. Well, I kind of know what's been going on in your bench. To let the rest of the world know.
I've been knocking out that Musaru Cup Miata kit they sent me, man.
Yep, you finished it.
I finished it.
One for the year. Boom.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, but yes, one for the year. I'll take that notch in my belt and get on with the next one because we'll get to it, but I got some potential for the rest of the year.
Yes, you do.
But back to this thing. I wanted to go into a vignette, which I actually might still finish.
Yeah.
But there's no vignette, but it's done. I submitted the photos to the Hamilton Club yesterday, and I got a verification that they got them today. So that part, and I've revealed on the Musaru Cup Facebook page and on the dojo, and it's all that. So it was a lot of fun most of the time with some caveats. Oh man.
Well, since you haven't been able to tell people about this because we don't talk about the Musaru while the Musaru's going on. The kit's an Aoshima kit, right?
It's an Aoshima curbside kit of a Mazda Miata. It's themed to some anime show that I've never seen and have no prior knowledge or present knowledge of because I didn't even go look after I started the kit because I really didn't care.
Right.
I was going to build it the way I wanted to build it. And you know me, since we started this thing, I've always tried to do something unique. I turned the Gundam into a benchtop kind of bench warrior with the base was a self-healing mat, and there's an X-Acto knife as the weapon, and he had a foot up on a Humbrol paint tin. There's a tube of Testor's tube cement all squeezed out all over the place, and made use of the articulation of the figure. So that's the one we actually won that year.
Yes.
That one was cool. And then you built the Mustang and almost finished it.
Almost.
Sorry, man.
No, I finished it. The next, it showed up in Hamilton a year later.
It showed up in Hamilton. And then I built that little Ural truck as a Hot Wheels car.
Yeah.
Didn't win that year. That's okay, but it was popular. Everybody liked the idea, so I was pleased with that. That was win or no win. It got the attention I wanted it to get because it was a fun idea and it came together pretty good, and I had fun doing it. It had its warts as well, but we got that one done.
And then the next year was the Sea Hund, the little
mini sub,
which I technically did finish. Submitted the photos, not the best finish, but a finish.
So you've had two that were like bullseye red dot in your wheelhouse,
I know.
You barely finished them.
Yes.
And I keep getting this tangential stuff, and I'm getting mine done, Dave.
Yeah,
so.
I know you are. I know you are.
So this year we had this Miata thing, and we're supposed to do things that were kind of in the vein of all the Fast and Furious movies.
Right.
All the cherry bomb mufflers and skinny wheels and stupid ground effects that don't work and tail fins and all that. And I wasn't feeling that. So I'm like, well, what can I do with this? So I built it as a rally car with a really unorthodox sponsor.
Yes.
The car was built using custom decals to kind of look like I say vintage, not that long ago, because they've changed their logo recently. A vintage X-Lax box. So black, white, and red graphics on a kind of a powder blue background.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those boxes, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
So we had some custom decals made from some artwork I did in Canva.
Well, and this is part of the thing that, instead of just building the Musaru build, you took it as an opportunity to try something. You and I had been talking about this custom decal manufacturer who offers a custom decal service. So you took the opportunity to say, okay, I'm not just going to build this Musaru. I'm going to utilize the service so we can A, know for ourselves, but also B, tell the listeners, hey, this is out there and we've experimented with it and this is what we found. So tell people what you found.
Well, the decals again were custom printed by a company called Hobbyist Decal, and they're out of India. I think Mumbai is where they're located. And these were brought to my attention by listener Adam Coleman, who's also the U.S. rep for Liang Models.
Right.
But he put me on to this decal company. He'd used them to replace old decals from, I think, something he was working on prior, and had good success with them. So I like, okay, we're going to do this with the Mooseru Cup. We're going to come up with a unique scheme. So I did it as a rally car sponsored by XLax. So XLax is the primary sponsor. And then all the Plastic Model Mojo podcast sponsors are like the little decals, like around the front wheel well, like on a NASCAR or other rally cars.
Yeah.
Kind of a pretty common thing, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that would be a neat way to do the car.
And a custom license plate.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. So we use Canva to do a lot of the podcast graphics, and I'm like, okay, well, I did up the decals and sent them the artwork. And, it's been an experience.
How was your interaction with them back and forth?
Well, the back and forth, the customer service side of it was excellent. They're English speakers, and I think it's in Mumbai, so they're going to be pretty good English speakers coming out of Mumbai, because it's like the financial capital of Asia, pretty much. That and Kowloon.
Mm-hmm.
So the back and forths were quick and easy, really because of the 12-hour time difference or whatever it is, 13, 11, 14, whatever it is. It's a long way. They'd ask me something and I would reply, and there was only half a day's difference between the replies. So that went pretty quick. Not as fast as maybe if they were, in the United States, but maybe.
Right.
That all went pretty well. We did the artwork. We went back and forth, made a couple revisions, and then we got the decals in the mail.
From finalizing the design to having the decals in your hand was how long?
About 14 days.
That's amazing.
So that's pretty good.
That's good.
And that's facilitated by the fact that these things they're inkjet plotter printed.
Okay.
So because that's the technology they're using, these decals were adequate for my application.
Mm-hmm.
But these are not cartograph decals.
Right.
So don't think you're going to get 1 millimeter text height, legible stuff from this process, because you're not.
Right.
You're just not. What you are going to get is pretty good graphics. Well, excellent to some degree for the larger stuff. And you're going to be able to buy just one sheet of it and not have to print 50 or 100 of them.
Right.
That you now have to figure out how to disposition, right? So you get one sheet, and the graphics are pretty good. I was pretty pleased with the printing. I say adequate for the application, because where they would have probably come up, or where they did come up short for really crisp, legible stuff, like our sponsor logos, some of those were a little fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the custom license plate was a little fuzzy. It's still recognizable for what it is, which is really, for what I was doing, all I needed.
Right.
It's a custom Kentucky plate, Kentucky state license plate. And that's, if you've ever seen a Kentucky plate, it's obvious that's what it is. So that's all it needed to be.
Yep.
But that said, a different process would be better for that, but you're getting to more higher level custom decal printing at that point.
Right.
The value here is it's a one-off, and that's all you can, if that's all you want, is all you have to buy.
Well, speaking of value and buy, what did it cost?
I want to say I'm about 30 something in, shipping and all, but let me give you a caveat. I think we might have got a deal because they were thinking this might be a lead on some future business.
Okay.
So I can't say if you order a sheet from them that it's going to be $30. I'm not saying that at all. That's what it cost me.
Gotcha.
In that ballpark. But if you're going to do this as a one-off for your own project, I would not expect it to be that. It's certainly going to be less than $100.
Sure.
And I think it's probably going to be less than 50. I'm going to ask Adam Colbin to chime in and tell us kind of the price point, generally what he's been paying. I know he's done one, maybe a couple of these projects with them. So we can get you a better estimate of what it might be. So it's going to depend on the sheet size and probably whatever, but good enough for what I was doing. But there, even with the print quality, there's some other caveats that we can talk about. Again, it's an inkjet plotter. Probably the biggest thing that could be better, and I think I know how I would improve it. The whites could have been more opaque, but that's not a problem that's unique to their process.
Right.
That's a lot of decals, even screen printed decals, or however, like other companies do it, that can be a problem as well. You could double print the white.
Right.
You could say one layer is white, one's yellow, and just load white ink in both stations and you doubled up. Or maybe there's a different way to do it. I don't know. I don't know their exact. I know what plotter they're using. I can't reference it off the top of my head, but I did look into that. They've got some videos out there of their process, and it's a nice commercial plotter. So they could thicken up their whites if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody asked them to, they would probably do it. I don't think they would hedge it not wanting to do that. The other thing is the decal film. And I'm curious again at Adam Coleman, what his experiences were. This film is really, really elastic. And typically that's not a trait of the decal films I've used in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really stretchy and rubbery. It's also pretty unresponsive to the decal solutions I had on hand, which are the microscale stuff and the alleged nuclear AK stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't touch it.
Made
it wet. That's about it.
Gotcha. But the decals laid down.
They did because they're so elastic that they'll stretch over bumps and curves and stuff like that. But there was not a situation where they had to snuggle down over rivets or down in the panel line.
Right.
So I don't know what they're going to do in that situation. Still undetermined. So I think based on my experience, if I needed that, I may go a different route. But I'd be curious what Adam might have to say if he's used them in that kind of application, because I don't know. There's another thing kind of that gets back to this elastic property of the decal film is the sheet is printed edge to edge on the clear film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like like a microscale decal, and I don't know what's the brand you're using for the Hellcat?
Furball Aero design.
Are furballs edge to edge, or are they spot printed on the clear film?
Oh, they're spot printed. I mean, it's classic. The clear film is not continuous across the entire sheet.
Okay. So there's definitely some advantages to that.
Right.
So this is edge-to-edge decal film, which I've dealt with before.
Right.
It's not the best situation, but it's a pretty common situation. So if you've built many kits at all, you've run across this and you've dealt with it. But the issue is that it's unresponsive to the decal setting solution. So what this company does, at least on my sheet they sent me is they singulate the images with a blade must be on the plotter print head.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a decal sheet that's got all these images printed on it on a continuous edge-to-edge clear film. And this plotter has a cutting blade on it. And just outside the color boundary for each image, they go around, they score down a certain depth. They went a little beyond the clear film into the paper a little bit to cut all these out, which is, in theory, a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's probably a combination of the elasticity of the decal film and the depth they're cutting that you get this burr around all the decals.
Yeah.
That you can't manage because the film will not react to the decal solutions that I have.
Right.
So on my Musaru cup, the number on the door, the big number 2.
Yeah.
Depending on which angle you look at, there's no getting that edge to go away with decal setting solution. And you might could get it covered up with gloss coat, but I don't know how much you're going to need.
Yeah, a lot of times the gloss coat will accentuate the burr rather than bury it.
It can, but you can also, with a more typical decal film and a heavy clear coat, you can actually sand that interface, and that's kind of that's a tenuous situation in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like sand. Anytime the word sanding and decals in the same sentence, yeah, makes me a little nervous.
I know it's been done, and I've seen people do it, and I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe they're not hitting it as hard as I think they're hitting it. But anyway, with this rubbery decal film, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I would probably use them again,
but
I would ask them to not singulate the decals. Because all the linear stuff, all the straight line graphics, I just cut it right to the color boundary.
Gotcha.
Just inside of the cut they had already made. I made a new cut
Right.
So all that stuff looks pretty good. It's just the round shapes that I really didn't have much option for. And it was really bad. Like on the round sponsor decals, a couple of our sponsors use round logos.
Right.
I guess because of the diameter and they're cutting around this tight radius that it kind of made things worse.
Yeah.
Or the bird's the same size and the decal's smaller.
So it shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. The ratio bad to good is not in your favor. So yeah, that bothered me a little bit. So I think I would probably use them again, but I would just say, don't singulate the decals. Just, I'll cut them myself.
Yeah.
Cause I would do it different. I would use a really sharp scalpel blade and a straight edge, or, maybe you could even use the thinner line. I don't know, to cut the circles maybe, or maybe you can't, I don't know. But I'm going to send them a follow-up email about what I thought.
Yeah.
And be curious to see their response.
Well, yeah, I would be interested to see if they respond and say, well, we could have done this, or we could do this in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if there's another film they could use.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is the film they're using.
Yeah.
But they build a whole business. They've got they got hundreds of decal sheets.
Yeah.
So, it's working for most people. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, stuck in my ways, old dog, new trick kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know, but man, Microset and Saw won't touch it. The AK decal, what is it? The decal adapter.
Right.
Which is supposed to be like
super hot.
Toxic waste for decals.
Yeah.
Didn't touch it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you spraying on Tamiya extra thin now? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to see you post all of this to the dojo too. But like I said, one of the great things was that you took advantage of the Musaru to say, hey, go try something new and be able to tell the listeners, hey, I've tried this. This is what it is. This is what it does. This is the pros and the cons, and look into it if it sounds like it's something that might meet one of your needs.
Exactly. And I've kind of approached this Musaru thing with that in mind every time.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the things I'm learning on these projects is nothing I'm going to learn on armor projects.
Right.
Gloss coats and you may be custom decals, but not like this, not like race car graphics.
Bubble packs. How to make a bubble pack.
Bubble packs. Yeah. So it's been fun. The bugaboo with the Musaru Cup build was that the windshield frame had a knit line right in the middle of the top of the frame, and I'd broken it during the initial construction. And then when I was taking off the mask for the weather stripping that I'd done with the bare metal foil, I cracked it again post paint.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot harder to fix.
Yeah.
So, oh well, it kind of, that's about my last give a damn.
Yeah.
It still looks pretty good. It still makes me smile when I look at it. So,
well, good.
I hope everybody else enjoys it too. 'Cause it was a fun little build, and then the decal thing was interesting experiment. So that's the Musaru Cup. That's not the only thing on my bench, man.
Right.
And
your bench is cleaner now because you said you did a post-finish clean.
I did, but I've got more stuff on it now.
What is it?
That 3D printed flak pans I've been working on. I've been working on a turret now because I've had the hull done for the most part for a long time. I've been working on the turret, and I've been sourcing some replacement parts. I don't like the wheels it's not the printed wheels that I've printed. I don't like the file. I don't like the STL because they're basically Hetzer wheels, but they don't have the rivets on the backside, which was an age old problem before the modern Hetzer kits started coming out. That those are visible, particularly on the first and last road wheel stations for that vehicle,
right?
Because the ground clearance is so high, you can see the backs of those wheels. Folks care, folks don't care. I care, so I've sourced some aftermarket resin, late Hetzer wheels, because it's not going to matter how good I print them. The detail's not there.
Right.
So it's not a matter of how good my printer is. It's a matter of fact that the model is
lacking,
inadequate. So I've ordered those. Those came. I've test fitted them to the model. That's looking good. So I'm trying to get that thing to paint really, really quick. just so I can have something in paint, because it's going to get to paint. It can get to paint before the KV85,
Right.
but not by much. I'll jump to it. The KV85 is back on the bench. There's minor turret detailing work to do. I did a little bit of that before we started recording. There's some minor hull detailing work to do, and the biggest thing left to do is those crazy turnbuckles they use to secure the tow cables to the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Still looking for a solution there. I'm not happy with any of the ones that were in the kit, and I'm not happy with the ones that are in any trumpeter KV kit, and I'm not happy with the ones in the right field models KV kit, because they all do the same thing, which is the hooks and the bar in the middle of the turnbuckle to turn it are all in the same plane, flat. And there's no reason that should be that way unless you deliberately placed all the turnbuckle in that position. So the hooks on the ends could be turned in any orientation along with the bar in the middle. So I'm trying to figure out how to make a new one that's got all that stuff randomized so it looks better, looks more natural. So not a big deal. It's not a hard problem to fix. I'm just not sure how I want to do it yet.
Gotcha.
So that's KV85. And then in addition, Mr. Evan McCallum, Panzermeister 36, has got me looking at this BT5 thing again because he wants to build one.
Right.
So
remind everybody the problem
of the BT5?
Of the BT series.
There's no BT5 kit. There's 2 Tamiya BT7s, and there's a bunch of Eastern Express BT7s. There's a horrible Zvezda Italeri BT5 that's not even worth considering. There are 3 Hobby Boss BT2s, and then there's every dumb iteration of the BT2 one-offs, 2 or 3 different ones from Hobby Boss that why would somebody would want to model one, but it's not like mass market appeal kind of subjects, right?
Right.
And all they got to do is put a new turret, which they've already got in their T26 series, and put a new upper hull in the kit, and they can do a BT5. And they've just never done it.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple of companies. One was Rhino Models. They're gone now. It was a resin upper hull or a BT5 conversion. And then my friend Scott Demick out of New Jersey has a business called Hellcat Models, and he's done several U.S. things, and he's done some things for the BT series, BT5. He's got a BT5 upper hull, a 3D print of the upper hull. And I've had mine for a couple of years. And Evan just got one. He had it sent to me so I can take it up to Heritage Con and give it to him.
Right.
But we're going to kind of go through a project together, and we need to talk at Heritage Con to see about how we're going to do this. But looks like it's going to be a thing. So when his came, I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and get the freaking support structure off my part, and get it cleaned up. So I've done that. I've taken all the support structure off the upper hull plate piece that is in the Hellcat Models kit, and started fine tuning a little bit, doing kind of secondary cleanup. And I've ordered some BT2 kits. The BT2 medium kit is the one you need to convert to a BT5. And I've got one for me and I got one for Evan. So looks like we're covered, man. And we just got to get going with the project.
Sounds like it'll be interesting.
So that's my bench. I got a lot going on, man.
Yes, you do. You do. You've got, and to be proud, one for the year, lots of production, lots of things going on. You should be proud.
And maybe, I think I can get one more done this year, maybe 2. This is the first time in a long time I've had 2 that ought to be close enough to be done by the end of the year.
If life won't interfere.
We shall see.
Yep.
Plastic Model Mojo is brought to you by Squadron. Head on over to squadron.com for the latest in kits and accessories, all at a great price and with great service. Squadron, adding to the stash since 1968.
Mike, do you do a bladder check? Make sure you got plenty of drink, because this might be a long segment. What broke your wallet?
Well, I've mentioned a few things. I've bought some kits, man.
Okay.
I think, unfortunately, I bought some kits.
Go ahead.
I mentioned the Hobby Boss BT2s, so I've got 2 of those, one for me, one for Evan. Got that one in. Already opened that one up and started messing with the BT5 hull on that one, see what all I got to do to it. In addition to that, I've got a Tamiya BT7, and I made a boneheaded move there. I ordered the Model 37, which is the conical turret.
Gotcha.
If I ordered the 35 version, I could have cabbaged the turret out of that one to use on my BT5 project. So I'm probably going to have to pick up another one. I probably should have just bought the 35 to begin with, but I just wasn't paying attention to what I was doing.
It happens.
I got a Mini Art T3485 Factory 112. I got the non-interior version.
Gotcha.
Which still got a lot of parts, but not quite a full interior. I picked that one up, and I got some late Hetzer wheels from LZ Models to use on my Flak Panzer because I didn't like like I said, I didn't like the 3D printed file that they provided to make those with. Other than that, I think I got some magazines, a couple of magazines, Tamiya extra thin because I was about out. Other than that, I think I talked about the paints I bought for the Musaru last time, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But it probably wasn't a what broke your wallet. So I bought some AK Gen 2 paints to paint the blue on the Musaru.
You mean the
cup.
real colors?
Sorry, yeah, the real colors, the lacquer paints.
Right.
So I've spent a little bit, but apparently you're gonna make me feel like a chump.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but David went on a little spending spree.
Okay, well,
you know how I whined about my model room and how I need to rearrange it, make things better.
Yeah.
Endlessly, to the point where you mock me over it. Well, came into a little money, and I've been buying.
Okay.
First, last time Skippy was over, it made me realize that I needed a new chair in my modeling room. And so I spent a little money and I got, your classic high-backed artist chair for, like a drafter or an artist sitting at a relatively high art table. Really nice. I got a mini vacuum that's both a vacuum and a blower. It's advertised for like work and detailing cars and such, but it's perfect for the hobby room and vacuuming up and cleaning up stuff. I've got an Optivisor.
Well, you got to make a mess to have something to clean up.
Yeah. Jesus, man. Okay. I liked it better when I finished models and you didn't. I've got an Optivisor and I use it, but it's a little cumbersome and all. And, to change lenses, you have to take off the whole front of the Optivisor. Well, somehow I got pushed an advertisement for these magnifying glasses that have multiple lenses that you can snap in and out, and they look kind of like a pair of glasses with the cups on the back so that they snug up towards your eyes. And I got them, and I've tried them on, both with my glasses and in replacement of my glasses. They're actually pretty good. I'm going to play with them some more, but man, I think they're going to come in real handy doing detail work.
You can get those stencils right side up.
Exactly. That's one of the motivations, as a matter of fact. I bought a set, Molotov makes those silver markers or the chrome.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I bought a set of, they're not Molotov, but they're the same stuff, same thing. It's a set of 3 in varying shades of chrome and silver, because I use the Molotov. In fact, most times I use the Molotov. I don't actually use it as a marker. I'll bring the paint out of the marker and then use that with a very fine brush. And that's what I plan to do with these as well.
Well, they're just different shades of silver?
These different shades of silver. I got a new light box, a new photographic light box. My old one's kind of old and It's had half-built models sitting on it and all sorts of stuff.
Gotta build stuff to photograph it, man.
Yeah, thank you. Take the shot. Actually, I ended up with 2 of those due to a shipping error, so you're going to get one too.
Hey, all right. I'll photograph the mooser and send it to you.
There you go. I also bought, you know what a swing arm is? You mount
tank, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, not. You mount it to your table, and then you can mount like a camera on it and use it to photograph your bench.
Yeah, I've got a highly articulated one on my bench.
Yes. Well, I've got one that I use for my video camera, my video chat camera, not a camera, but one just
It's got
for
a standard screw
Zoom
on
call.
it for a camera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I bought this really nice high-end swing arm because I want to start shooting some video, or at least experimenting with it. And this thing looked really good, so I went ahead and bought it. I haven't mounted it yet. Also, due to a listener who I had some interactions with, I ended up with the Display Vice, and I really like that. I mentioned that I dropped in like the space of a week 2 sets of tweezers and ruined both of them. So to replace 2 tweezers, I went out and got 4 tweezers.
Well,
I got 2 from a company called Steady, Stedi, and then I picked up 2 Display tweezers. And so I replaced the 2 I destroyed with 4. So, hey.
Good move.
I think so too. And really nice tweezers, not very expensive, but really high quality. You and I have talked about not buying cheap when it comes to tweezers, and these things really are good, and they're not overly expensive.
No, and we mentioned that last time, I think.
Yeah.
That, when we had the big club debate about that, it was a lot harder. Really good tweezers were, was like
you had to go to a scientific supply.
Yeah, it's like a 50x multiplier on what the cheap ones cost.
Yeah.
Maybe 100x.
Yeah.
It's not so much now.
Nope, not at all. I also picked up, speaking of Steady, Stedi, they make some scribers. Now, I've talked about the fact over the last year I concentrated on trying to get my panel line scribing and rescribing better. And there is nothing that I like more than the UMM USA scriber.
Yep.
But I'm always on the lookout for something else just to see if there's something better out there. And this company, Steady, had a set of 3 scribers and a handle, not very expensive. And so I went ahead and got them. I haven't used them yet. We're going to see. It turns out there was a hobby town that's been open for about 9 months in Louisville, and not too far from where I live, that I didn't know about. I was in the shopping center where it is, going into a Kroger, as a matter of fact. And I saw it, and I'm like, I don't remember that being there. Turns out they've only been open about 9 months. So I walked in there. I did pick up one of my Display tweezers there because I want to, anytime there's a hobby shop, I want to try and spend some money and encourage the business. They also had a very random selection of Mr. Color paints. They didn't have the full rack. They had like 20
Ours
colors
is like that.
This must be part of the package that
I wonder if they don't have a favorite customer that needs a couple of colors and they have to order boxes of 6.
Oh, maybe that could be it too. But these were very random. I mean, it wasn't like, if
ours is the same way. They've got like a handful of things and it makes no sense.
Yeah. So, but I picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bottles of Mr. Color.
Wasn't too random for you, apparently.
Wasn't too well. I eventually am going to acquire all of the Mr. Color paints because
Because why not?
Well, I'm sold on them. Getting out of other paint lines. I
You are.
love these things.
Moved on from enamel.
I moved on from enamels, although I'm still going to keep the color coats because I like them too. And finally, I did pick up a kit just to make you feel better.
And help me meet my minimum order.
And meet your minimum order. I picked up an Arma Hurricane 2. It's the multi-kit with the 2A, 2B, 2C, so you can do any one of the three versions of the Hurricane Mark II. So
and either British or Russian marking.
Either British or Russian marking. So,
hey, if the plastic's not on it when you get it, all the parts are there, I promise.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm done now, although with Heritage Con in 2 weeks and a visit to Michigan Toy Soldier and the Heritage Con vendor room, there probably is going to be some more money spent, but I think I'm done right now.
Plastic Model Mojo is brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com.
Guys, I'm as tired of saying it as you are of hearing it, but please, when you're done listening to the podcast on whatever app you use, please go rate the podcast, give it at the highest rating available. It helps drive new listeners to discover the podcast. In addition, if you know a modeler who's not listening to Plastic Model Mojo, please recommend us to them, help them. If they don't know what a podcast is or how to listen to one, please help them out so that they can start listening. We continue to grow. The best way for us to grow is for current listeners to help us bring in new listeners. So please, we appreciate you doing that.
In addition to that, please check out all the other podcasts out in the model sphere. You can do that by going to www.modelpodcast.com. That's Model Podcast plural. It's a consortium website set up with our friend Stuart Clark up in Canada from the Scale Model Podcast. He's aggregated all the banner links to all the podcasts in the model sphere. You can go there as a one-stop shop and check them all out. In addition to the podcast, we got a lot of blog and YouTube friends out there as well. I already mentioned Evan McCallum, Panzermeister 36. He's got a great YouTube channel you're going to want to check out and be curious where this BT5 thing goes. Maybe it's going to be on his channel. Maybe it's going to be on, I don't know what. We'll see.
We'll see. To be
we'll
determined.
See what happens. We got model airplane maker, our friend Chris Wallace.
Who's been doing some great stuff lately.
He's been doing some great stuff. He's got a YouTube channel and a blog. In addition to that, he gave us a big plug on his latest blog post. He elaborated on what he would do if he came into a bunch of money.
Yes.
Which was a listener mail question a couple episodes ago. We appreciate that, Chris.
We do.
You mentioned Jeff Groves, the Inchai guy. He just finished up all his stinking Sturmovics.
Yes.
I didn't realize there were that many kits out there.
Yep.
How many did he build?
Oh, God. I did.
Looks like a dozen.
Yeah, there's something close to that. Now, there may be one or two repeats in there, but yeah.
Anyway, it's I don't know if it's most epic batch build, but it's got to be close.
Yes, it is an awesome one.
He's built a lot of Aleutian ground attack planes, so check out the Inchai Guy blog. We got Sprue Pie with Frets, Stephen Lee, great 70-second scale blog, and it's Macho scale railroading, long and short form content. Some great stuff there. You're going to want to check that out. And we got Paul Budzik Scale Model Workshop, and he's always putting some videos out there that are going to help you along in your hobby. So please check them all out.
If you're not a member of IPMS USA, please consider joining. If you're not in the U.S., you can still join IPMS USA, but you also can join your national IPMS organization. Great group of people who are giving up their modeling time to help your modeling experience be better. In addition, if you're into armor modeling or post-1900 figures modeling, take a look at joining AMPS, the Armor Modeling Preservation Society, a dedicated group of modelers who want to elevate the art of armor modeling, and they do so. Mike, we're almost at the end of the episode. Are you at the end of your modeling fluid?
Almost, Dave. Not quite, but almost. But we had a pause that the listeners won't hear where maybe I refilled it.
Yes. Well, I feel silly asking you. I mean, it's Weller. It's nectar of the gods. It's the pinnacle of the bourbon art. I mean, what is there to say?
That is good and it's smooth.
Smooth doesn't begin to describe that.
Well, we can talk about why.
Well, go ahead and talk about why.
Weller is a wheated bourbon.
Yep.
So by definition, a bourbon has to be 51% corn.
Yep.
After that, it doesn't matter what else is in it.
Only to taste does it matter.
Well, yes. Per definition by the ATF, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So spicier bourbons have a lot of rye in them. Some of them have no wheat at all.
Right.
And some have more wheat than rye, and some have no rye at all, which I think is where Weller is.
I think so too.
So I could be wrong, but I don't think so. There's no rye in Weller. Weller is the mash bill after the corn is almost entirely wheat.
Yeah.
So it's a very smooth bourbon. It's a little sweeter. It's just really, really good. And this is the Special Reserve, which is kind of their lower end one.
Yeah.
If you can get your hands on the 12-year,
oh,
that one's really, really good. But It's going to cost you some money.
Yeah.
But it's really good. So the short of it is I've enjoyed it. It's good. Don't worry, Dave. There'll come another bottle to Canada because I've got another one secured because right now it's a little easier to get than it used to be, but we won't get into that. We won't get into the why.
Yeah.
It is. So I've got another bottle and we'll
take
crack
advantage.
That one. We'll crack that one at Heritage Con.
That sounds great.
Well, what about you, man?
I had to tap out. Got about half of this thing drunk. And
I get it, man.
Mark these words for me. It's too hoppy.
It's just too much.
It's too much.
It's like eating potpourri.
Yeah, kind of. It just, I mean, the hop is so far forward and it's such a bitter hop because not all hop is bitter. To some extent it is, but it's not all the same. And this is just full on in your face bitter. And you know what? I drink modeling fluid because I enjoy drinking modeling fluid. So if it's something like this where the bitter and the hop is just so much that it robs me of the enjoyment, I'm not going to drink it. So yeah, I tapped out.
How many you got?
It's the only one. I bought it as a single at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
And so, because that's what I do. They sell a lot of singles. And so I go on, I buy it as a single. That way I can sample one of them. So luckily I'm not stuck with 5 more of these things.
But it's a 2-for-1. It's your first and your last.
Yeah, it is both my first and my last. This is truly the end of the episode. It's time for shout-outs. Mike, do you have a shout-out?
Well, I would be remiss to not shout out all the folks who have chosen to contribute to Plastic Model Mojo through their generosity. Folks like Junsik Na, Stephen McDonald, and Martin Pieta. Those folks have chosen to help us out through Patreon or PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee, or all those avenues are available through the Plastic Model Mojo website at www.plasticmodelmojo.com. Man, we appreciate it. Right now, folks have been really generous, and we are on the crux of getting the change to the website done. It's just been fabulous, and we really, really appreciate it, folks. So we hope to be able to bring you a bunch of new content that's not audio. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And folks, thank you. Thank you so much.
We could not be here were it not for you, and then we could not make the improvements if it were not for you. So, yeah, I join Mike in his shout out.
Got one of your own?
Well, actually, I have, instead of shout outs, I've got 2 Dave recommends TV shows or video. One is a classic network television show. I don't watch much network TV anymore. God, I haven't for years. There's this British series, Doc Martin, that my wife and I really enjoy. Spanned 10 seasons, about 15, 18 years, because British TV, you'll get a season and then it'll take 2 years till you get a new one. Well, it's a very popular show here in the U.S. among watchers of British TV. Well, NBC has decided to do an American version, just like they did with The Office, where you had the British Office, and then they did the Steve Carell Office here in the U.S. There's a show now called Best Medicine, and they're about 10 episodes into it. It's really, really well done. If you enjoyed Doc Martin, the British show, you will enjoy Best Medicine. Takes a couple episodes to get going, but they're into like their 10th episode now, and it's really, really good. So I highly recommend that. In addition, if you have Netflix, there is a 6 or 7 episode TV show, just one season. That's all it's going to be. It's a contained story. It's called His and Hers. And it's the actor John Barenthal is the lead male actor. And I particularly have enjoyed a lot of his work. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Very, very good. And man, at the end, it has some twists that, I'm a pretty good TV watcher and I can see stuff coming. Absolutely blindsided me, some of the twists at the end. So again, if you're looking for something to watch, Best Medicine, His and Hers on Netflix.
Well, I got another one.
Okay.
It's still Q1, and our sponsors have all been kind of in a renewal period. Model Paint Solutions, we got Squadron, we got Kit Mass, Bases by Bill, and Bill Moore's World of Armor. Looking forward to helping these folks promote what they got going on in 2026, and it's all going to be good. We support people we like, and we like all these folks, so patronize them, folks.
Yes, and truly, these are all companies, are all things that I would, whether or not they were sponsors, I would recommend, because they're all really, really good at what they're doing, and
good people.
Yeah, good people, and you can't say enough about good people.
Well, getting close to the end, man.
Yeah,
if we're not already there.
Yeah, we are. I think we're at the end.
Well, Dave, as we always say,
so many kids,
so little time, and
see you at the bench, man.
See you at the bench.